start the recording. I have a tendency to forget that, Casie, so.
We'll give folks a few more minutes to hop on here before we get started.
Yep.
Just a few more minutes. So if you need to check your email, send a text message, check your Facebook or Twitter feed one last time, go ahead. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We will call the October 9th, 2023 meeting to order. And we will start like we do every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand and join if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any Rotarians that, or folks in our Rotary family that we should be keeping in our thoughts today? While I give you a moment to think, certainly want to just send good thoughts to what's happening over there in Israel and that conflict that's going on. Just yet another tragic series of call it war. I'm not really sure what's happening over there with the news. That's kind of changing as we go, but just you can see another great loss of life and a lot of innocent lives being taken. So certainly want to keep that top of mind here today. Are there any other thoughts from our our members today? Okay. Hearing none, let's just take a moment and send out some good thoughts. Okay. All right. Thank you. Whoops. Jumped a few slides. Hold on, Karen. Yep, I know. You'll get it pulled back up here, Karen.
Go ahead and just talk about that. So,
okay. Yeah, so there'd be a slide. So all of you should have in your inbox the 2023 club documents for review that we are going to vote on next Monday. As we're back in person at the Plex, there'd be three documents: the club constitution, the club bylaws, and the club policies and procedures. So if you have the time and inclination, please take a look at those. And if you have any questions, let myself or Karen know ahead of time or during next week's meeting. And we will just put those up one by one to be voted on for approval. So I think that covers the housekeeping items today. And with that, I don't know is Katie on? I don't know. I saw her. Okay. I'm not seeing Katie on. So Casie, right? Is that how you pronounce? Okay. So Casie Vance is here today. So Casie, I don't have a bio to share, so you may have to do a little bit of an introduction on you and a little short biography for your presentation today. But we have Casie Vance here with Ames History Museum. So please welcome Casie. And if you do have questions that you think of during Casie's presentation, as always, please drop them into the chat feature. And Casie, I'm sure you're familiar with how that works. And so we'll just kind of keep an eye on that, and we can either answer as we go, or as you go, I should say, or we can wait till the end. But that's kind of how we do things. So welcome, Casie.
Thank you. I'm Casie Vance. I'm the executive director at Ames History Museum. And I've been in this position since 2012, so about 11 years. Today I'm just going to talk about kind of the services we provide for the community, and then more about our big expansion project that we're working on right now. So like Mason said, feel free to put questions in the chat or unmute at the end, and we can answer whatever questions you have. So our mission as an organization is to engage our diverse public and provide unique opportunities to learn about Ames history. And we carry this out in a few ways. It is maintaining an archive, artifact collection, and website. We collect two main categories of things: archives and artifacts. Archives are mostly paper things like records, meeting minutes, newspaper clippings, documents, and then artifacts are usually 3D objects. One of our strongest collections in our archival collection is photographs. We house the Ames Tribune Photo Archives, which consist of over 1 million images on sheet film and 35mm negative strips. And these date from 1948 to about 1999. And we're missing a lot of the 60s for some reason. So we're kind of light on photos from the 1960s. But these images depict local people, places, and events, and really give a glimpse into what life was like when the photos were taken. We also have our own photo archive, which includes black and white and color photos, glass plate negatives, and color slides from the beginning of Ames to the present. And then in our archival records, we also have correspondence, diaries, genealogies, scrapbooks, ledgers, meeting minutes, all of those kinds of things. Good research value in all of that for learning about Ames history. Then some examples of artifacts in our collection include a player piano, a 6,000-year-old mineralized bison skull found in the Skunk River, seed art created by a local artist. We actually have a pretty strong art collection by local artists. The photo on the left here is some Luxfer glass from a campus town building. And then we also have a large collection of business signs and souvenirs from Ames businesses. Typically we use our exhibit space to display as many artifacts as we can, but like most museums, all of the artifacts can't be on display at once. So we currently have 3 off-site storage locations to store artifacts that are not on display. We have more than 8,000 artifacts in the collection total, and an ongoing project is an inventory of the artifacts, including taking really good photos and researching more about the associated businesses or stories. We're also assessing the condition and properly packing things for storage. Once an object has been processed, it can be added to our online database, which is searchable, and this is really fun to look through. It's linked on our website, so if you're interested in just checking out some of the things we have, it's really interesting to just go through there and see all kinds of different things that we have in our collection. Another way that we fulfill our mission is by providing research assistance, tours, programs, and publications. We have many resources available in a reference collection. We have a complete collection of Ames High and Iowa State yearbooks. We have a lot of phone books and city directories going back to the early 1900s, books about Ames history, books by Ames authors, maps. All of this is usually available for the public to browse and use for research in our reading room, but the museum is currently closed for expansion, which I'll talk about in a minute. But another ongoing project is digitizing all of these resources so they're searchable through our website and accessible from anywhere. Many of them have already been digitized, which we found really helpful during the pandemic, that when we were closed for that, and now again when we're closed, that it's just been really great to have so many of our resources digitized and available for research online. So again, those are linked through our website. Researchers using AHM's resources range from professional writers to family genealogists to just curious individuals. We answer about 400 research questions each year, and photos and stories have been featured on ESPN, in Scholastic books, on National Geographic. We have a few really great national reach stories, including James Herman Banning, who the airport is named after now, was the first African-American to fly cross-country, and he was from Ames. And another aviation story actually is Nita Snook, who learned to fly while living in Ames and ended up teaching Amelia Earhart to fly. So those are some of the stories that get tapped a lot for some of those national publications. We also have exhibits, usually at the museum and also out in the community, to help connect visitors to important events and people in Ames past. While the museum is closed, we're hosting some pop-up exhibits out in the community, including one right now on display about Jack Trice. And this is on display at the end of this month at the Ames Public Library and at the Multicultural Center at the Memorial Union. And this exhibit was really exciting to put together. We found some photos that have never been seen before, including one of Jack's wife, Cora May. So it was just really fun to look into more aspects of his life besides just the football game and his death. We provide an average of 33 school programs each year, mostly for third graders, which is when they learn about local history. Our school programs also include hands-on activities with artifacts. And topics include early Ames history, pioneer life, transportation, and notable individuals from Ames history. In addition to school programs, we also provide an annual lecture series, programs for groups, tours of the museum when it's open, special members events, and more. Between program attendees and visitors to the museum, we typically reach about 7,000 people each year. And we are actually meeting tomorrow to start planning out the lecture series for next spring. So we'll be looking out for more information about the topics for that. And that usually is one lecture each month in February through May. Another important way that we fulfill our mission is by operating Hoggett School. Hoggett was the first school to serve Ames children. It was built in 1862 and served not only as a school, but also a community meeting place before Ames was laid out as a town. And it was replaced by a bigger school to serve the growing city of Ames in 1868. So it was a school from 1862 to 1868. After its use as a school, it was moved several times and then incorporated into a house on 3rd Street. And then in 1980, the homeowner rediscovered it and donated the house to the new organization that became the Ames History Museum. And Hoggett School was moved to the Meeker Elementary School grounds, where it still is today, and restored. And it reopened in 1983 as a museum. It still serves the community each summer when AHM hosts programs that highlight what life was like and how children learned and played in the 1860s. This is another place where 3rd graders often do field trips to. And then as far as staff and volunteers go, we have 4 full-time staff members at the museum. As the executive director, I work with the board and committees, manage day-to-day operations and staff, and also do marketing and publicity. Alex is our exhibits manager. He plans and builds all of our temporary exhibits and is also our expert on Ames history research. Madeline manages our artifact collection and our archival collections. And like I said, a big project is inventorying the collections. And so she manages several volunteers working on that project. And then Savannah manages our front desk volunteers, helps with membership, and helps with collections and exhibits projects. This is our current board of directors, 14 community members. They meet monthly and provide overall strategic guidance for the museum. And then, like I said, we have several volunteers who do everything from greeting visitors at the front desk, serving on committees, and helping with the research and collections projects, including digitizing photos and also the collections inventory. Volunteers provide about 5,000 hours of service every year, so we really couldn't do what we do without our volunteers. As a 501c3 nonprofit organization, we rely on donations to fund our operations. And you can see from these charts the breakdown of our typical operating budget. Memberships and donations make up the majority of our income, and then we receive money from the city of Ames each year as well through a grant. And as is typical with nonprofits, personnel is our largest expense. So, like I said, we were founded in 1980 to preserve Hoggett School. And through the first few decades of the organization's existence, we hosted exhibits in various locations in downtown Ames. And then in 2007, the board decided to ensure a permanent presence in downtown by purchasing the building at 416 Douglas. We're really happy with our location at the corner of 5th and Douglas. We're right across the street from the Downtown Center for the Arts, kitty corner from the library, really close to Main Street and right downtown where a lot of events and things are happening. And then in the fall of 2013, we expanded our space a little bit and took over the whole first floor of the building to allow for larger display space, workspace, and archive space. Then in 2021, we purchased the Ames Pantorium building next door to the museum. This building is historically and culturally significant. It was built for the Ames Pantorium dry cleaning business in 1926 and continued to house the dry cleaners until 2010. The architecture represents a time when Main Street moved from more Victorian architecture to more modern, simplified architecture. And the glazed brick on the outside is really rare in the downtown district. And then the neon sign, which is still there, was installed in 1937. So the museum building and the planetarium are both currently under construction for a big expansion project for the museum, including complete renovation of the building at 416 Douglas, restoration of the Pantorium building, and a small addition connecting the two. And the expanded museum will open to the public in summer 2024. This floor plan shows the Pantorium in blue along the bottom, and then the existing museum building is the red on the left, and then the orange is the addition. So you can see the main entrance to the museum will now be through the Pantorium. We'll have an expanded museum store selling unique Ames items. And then the first floor of the Pantorium also includes our reading room with all of those resources that I talked about, and an exhibit fabrication shop. And then the collections hall on the first floor at 416 Douglas allows us to store our entire artifact collection on site. Like I said, our artifacts are currently stored in 3 off-site storage locations. So this space lets us bring all those things under one roof. And this will be a well-controlled temperature and humidity space to help us preserve those items. And then actually visitors will be able to see into the collections vault through a window in the hallway. That's exciting as well. Then the addition mostly is just an elevator and a new staircase to help provide centralized wayfinding and access to the second floor. And on the second floor, we have a gathering hall in the Pantorium, which can be rented by community groups, used for pop-up exhibits and hosting AHM events. The second floor also includes 2 galleries and offices for our staff and volunteers. The permanent gallery will tell the overall story of Ames history, and the changing gallery will house shorter-term exhibits exploring special anniversaries, undertold stories, and the impact of national events in local history, and those exhibits will change about once per year. As part of the renovation project, we're actually removing the roof on our building and adding about 5 feet of height to the space so that the exhibit galleries will have nice tall ceilings to make them more flexible for changing exhibits. This photo shows the feature lobby on the first floor of the Pantorium. We'll be restoring the original terrazzo floor and ceiling in the space. And this is a rendering of what it will look like. And then this shows the featured gathering. So like I said, this can be rented by community groups or used for museum events, and it will hold about 50 people. The original narrow plank hardwood floors in the space will be restored, and historically this space was once the bungalow tea room in the 1930s. So it's fitting that it will be used for community events once again. This rendering shows part of the permanent exhibit. We're working with an exhibit design firm out of the Quad Cities to design and fabricate the exhibit. And the exhibit includes sections about transportation, events, people who shaped Ames, and the centerpiece will be a replica of the Dinky Indian. We'll also have a timeline of Ames history, a People of Ames interactive database, a section about theaters, Ames High School, and a children's interactive area. And then another piece of the project is the Luminary Women Initiative, which recognizes women who have impacted the Ames community through volunteer and professional work. And these unrecognized women have cared for the community and contributed to the quality of life in Ames. And donors can supply a photo of and information about the woman to be honored, and then we'll have a database of that and also have each name displayed around the base of the skylight in the new reading room in the Pantorium. This shows a rough comparison of square footage that we had in the museum before and then the expanded museum. So you can see that we have almost 5 times the exhibit gallery space, a larger reading room, a much larger museum store, and increased office space as well. The total project is about $4.25 million, and that includes restoration of the Pantorium, renovation of our existing building, and the addition. And we've been really happy with community support so far. We've raised about $3.6 million. So we're getting close to the goal here, and it's really exciting to see construction start and everything getting kicked off. We are still taking pledges and donations. So if you're interested in learning more about them, you can go to our website. And then I just wanted to end with this quote by Stephanie Wager. When people feel more connected to their communities, they're more likely to engage in that community, more likely to volunteer and take care of it. The history connection to that is often overlooked, but it's a huge part of civic engagement. So I've talked a lot about the tangible services that we provide, exhibits, programs, collections preservation, research assistance. But I think one of the most important things that Ames History Museum does for the community is less tangible. We provide a sense of place and shared memory for the community. And museums are just a big piece of the quality of life in a community. And we're excited to continue to fulfill that important role with the expanded museum. What questions? There are a couple things in chat, it looks like. You rotate artifacts on display, and how do you decide what to display? Yeah, so like I mentioned, in the new museum, we'll have 2 exhibit galleries. One will be more permanent, and by that I mean it'll be up for probably 15 to 20 years before it gets a big overhaul. We are planning, even in the permanent exhibit, we're looking ahead and planning to change out artifacts occasionally. So trying to make it so that there's always something new to see in that space, even with a longer term exhibit. And then the temporary gallery changes about once a year. And usually that is just decided amongst the staff as far as topics go, based on what artifacts we have, what stories we have. Sometimes we look at anniversaries coming up, like on the 75th anniversary of World War II, we did an exhibit related to that. So it just kind of depends on what we feel like we can use to tell the story, whether we have really good stories we've run across recently or artifacts that can be grouped together to tell a story. So that's kind of how we decide what to display. I'm looking forward to having the window into the collections vault in the new space, because I think that can be kind of a catch-all for some specific artifacts that don't fit in with a larger story or that we haven't been able to display before. We can kind of rotate that space as well. Other questions? Can the general public drop off artifacts? Yes, with appointment. So we prefer to have people contact us ahead of time so that we can take a look at. Usually we ask people to like email us with a photo of what they have before bringing it down. And that way we can see if we already have something telling that story in our collection. Due to space concerns especially, we need to be really careful about what we accept and make sure that we're accepting things that tell the story of Ames history. We look at condition, and then we look at whether we already have the same artifact in the collection or something that tells the same story. But yes, we are always happy to take a look at what anyone has and see if it would be a good fit for us.
So Casie, how did you get involved with the History Museum?
Yeah, good question. I graduated from UNI with a degree in history, and then I knew I would be looking for a museum job, so I did an internship actually at the Ames History Museum when I was still in college, and then ended up here. My husband went to Iowa State, so I moved here after I graduated, and then ended up working at the museum and been here ever since.
Great, thank you. Looks like there's a few more questions in the chat.
Yeah, digitized material available online. A lot of our stuff is online right now. So a lot of photos are available on our website. We also, the whole Farwell Brown photo collection, which is actually owned by the Ames Public Library, has been digitized, and that is on their website. There's a link on ours to get to that. The entire Ames Tribune newspaper has been digitized as well and is searchable, so that's really fantastic for research. And then, like I said, we've been working on digitizing like phone books, yearbooks, notes. So as those get digitized, we add those to our online collection as well. So I really encourage you to go to our website and just look around. There's a lot of good resources on there. Are there any artifacts the museum is looking for at this time? that is a good question. Nothing comes to mind immediately except for, like I said, the 1960s is mostly missing in our photo collection for some reason from the Tribune. So if anybody has photos of life in Ames in the 60s, we're always looking for that. That's the one thing I can think of off the top of my head right now. How do you coordinate with the community of Ames history alongside the history of the States? That's a good question. So we try to focus just on Ames, the community, but obviously Iowa State has a big impact on the community of Ames and Ames history. Iowa State does have their own archives and museum system, and so we try not to step on toes, but also we work together. So if something comes in here that we think would fit better over there, or vice versa, we have a pretty good relationship with university archives and university museums.
Well, and you said, I think Allison Sheridan, wasn't she on your board of directors, executives, and doesn't she work for Iowa State, the museum, art museum, but
Yep, she works at the Farmhouse Museum in Bernier. So yeah, we have a good relationship between both of those organizations. So it's an interesting partnership because, like I said, obviously Iowa State impacts the history of Ames a lot. But, and then, how common are history museums in communities across Iowa? A lot of times, a county will just have a county museum. Story County is unique because we have about 11 museums, each small town. So like Kelly, Story City, Collins, Maxwell, Roland, each have their own museum. Most of those are volunteer based, but that really allows us as the Ames History Museum to focus just on Ames. And again, some of the wider community county story is told just because it's all interconnected, but not really the fact that we have just Ames rather than all of Story County helps us really focus. There's a question about volunteering. We do right now. We have less volunteers than usual just because we're in a temporary space and during a big construction project. But in general, we take on new volunteers to help with collections projects, research projects, scanning, and working at the front desk. And we have a contact page on our website. That's the best way to contact us to sign up to volunteer. Other questions? Those are good ones.
give folks another minute to see if they come up with any questions for you, Casie.
Casie, there used to be a program where you had volunteers interviewing long-term residents of Ames for historical information and posterity, I guess. Is that still going on?
It's kind of on hiatus right now just because the volunteer that we had recording those stopped volunteering for now, but I think that's something we're interested in starting back up in the future with the new museum. And we have, I don't even know, maybe 40 or 50 of those oral histories recorded and transcribed, and those are available on our YouTube page. So people can access those online as well. And there's, yeah, a lot of really interesting stories from folks.
Casie, where the Jack Trice, you showed those banners in one of your slide. Where is that located in your space? You said you're in a kind of a temporary space. I didn't know if that was somewhere else.
Right now, there are 2 copies of that exhibit. One is on display at the Memorial Union in the Multicultural Center, and then one is on display at the Ames Public Library. And both of those will be up through the end of October. And then there'll probably be other places as well in the community. We don't have those set yet, but.
Okay. Yeah, for those that didn't know, it was the 100-year anniversary this past weekend, honoring Jack Trice and his unfortunate death after the game against the University of Minnesota. And I believe Iowa State awarded him with a posthumous degree in animal husbandry. So I guess I was a little surprised it took that long, but glad nonetheless that that they made that happen for him. So it looks like another question just came up in the chat there.
What is the history of 416 building? Yeah. So that is a newer building. It was built in 1993 as an office building. Previously on that site was the Ames Hotel. It kind of looked like a barn. I don't know if people have seen or remember photos from that era, but that was torn down in the late 80s, and then in 1993 our office building was built. So the expansion actually is really exciting because it kind of combines, we'll have that historic entrance in the 1926 building, but then we still have the good foundation of the 93 building that's a little newer, and it has a concrete slab, and it's both of them actually are really structurally sound. So that's great. It's a nice combination, new and old. All right. Well, thank you for letting me speak to you. Feel free to contact us if you have any other questions.
Yeah, one final. So you said the expansion that you plan to have completed and ready for the general public, it was summer 2020. What was it?
2024 next year. Yep.
2024. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. Well, maybe when that's completed and opened, and maybe have a good opportunity to come back and tell us all about it. So wonderful. Well, thank you for your time, Casie, today. It's always good to have a history lesson. And for those that don't understand history, you're doomed to repeat it. So I think that's how the quote goes, or something like that. But again, we appreciate your time today, and thank you for the information. So please join us next week. We will be back at the Plex at normal accommodations. We'll get a chance to hear from Kate Zimmerman, who's executive director of the White Rock Conservancy. So looking forward to that. And I think we'll give folks a little bit of time back in their lunch hour today. So with that, please join me as we recite the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. Have a great day.